A pivot table is a tool in Excel that allows you to analyze and summarize large sets of data in a simple way. Pivot tables can be manipulated and changed fairly easily, which makes them a very powerful tool. They can seem a little intimidating at first, but the best way to get more comfortable with them is to practice. So I've included a file that you can download with all of the data, and you can create your own pivot tables right along with me in these videos. For our example, we have sales transaction data. In this data, we have a column for order number, order date, customer name, sales representative, branch, and total revenue for the order. We have 500 orders, so a pivot table is our best bet for quick analysis. To create a pivot table, you start with source data. Excel, in essence, takes a snapshot of the data to use in the pivot table. Put your active cell in your data. Click on the Insert ribbon. This section right here has a few options for pivot tables. You could click this Recommended Pivot Tables button, which gives some suggestions of pivot tables you may want to see. I prefer to create my pivot tables from scratch, so we'll click this Pivot Table button. You can also use the shortcut Alt-N-V. This will bring up a box with some options. The first section is important because it shows us the table or range that will be used to populate the pivot table. Make sure that this range is incorporating all of your data and isn't missing any rows or columns. Another quick note, your data has to have column headings, otherwise the pivot table can't be created. In this section, you can also choose whether you want the pivot table on a new worksheet or the current one. We'll create a new worksheet. The pivot table is created on this new sheet. For now, we have this box that acts as a placeholder for our data until we put some actual data in it. On the right side of the screen, we have this list of our pivot table fields or columns. We then have this section with 4 areas. Filters allow you to filter the entire pivot table. As the name suggests, the columns area is used to specify what you want in the columns. The same goes for the rows area. Finally, in the values area, we can put the actual data we want to show or summarize. One other quick note on navigating pivot tables. When you click inside a pivot table, 2 extra tabs appear on the ribbon. One is called Analyze, and the other is called Design. There are lots of options in these tabs, which we won't cover right now, but it's helpful to know they exist. The easiest way to understand these areas and pivot tables in general is to do some examples. So let's get to it. Let's say we want to see how much revenue our customers did in 2020. For this, we'll want each customer to appear in a row, so we'll drag the customer field into the rows area. And now we can see our pivot table has started to be populated. It shows the unique customer names from our data. From the 500 lines of data on the Orders tab, we have 29 customers. Because we want to show the amount of revenue, we'll drag Total Revenue into the Values area. Now we have a summary of all the revenue for each customer. One of my pet peeves is staring at numbers without commas, so we'll add some formatting to our pivot table. You can highlight all the numbers and change the number format up here in the number section of the Home tab. Sometimes when you change the number formatting this way, the pivot table won't keep the formatting when you update the table. So another way you can format the numbers is by right-clicking on a number in this column and selecting Value Field Settings. Click on the Number Format button and then select the format you want. We'll choose number with a comma and no decimals. The pivot table is sorted based on our first column, the customer name, in an alphabetical sort. Let's say we want to show our table based on the amount of revenue each customer did, with the most amount of revenue at the top. To do so, right-click on a number and hover over Sort. Then select Largest to Smallest. And now we see our top customer was Buy More, which had almost $188,000 in revenue, followed by InGen, and then the Bluth Company. This is a pretty simple pivot table that we created, but you can see how quickly we were able to get some important insights from a long list of data.